The story opens in complete chaos. A lone female warrior stands with her blade drawn, boldly claiming that the modern world has no room for fantasy anymore. But right at that moment, reality completely betrays her. Something unnatural appears. Something not from this world. The sky distorts. A massive, unknown presence begins to take shape, and it becomes painfully clear. Fantasy was never gone. It was just hiding. Then the scene shifts. A dark castle stands beneath a glowing full moon. The air feels heavy, suffocating. In front of it, a lone warrior faces a towering shadow, an entity so massive it barely looks real. That warrior is Yura Natsuki. He grips his blade tightly, staring straight at the creature as a mocking voice echoes through the darkness. The enemy finally reveals itself, demon god Zephos. And let's be honest, even when someone calls themselves a demon god, that's already a red flag. Zephos declares himself far beyond any king, any ruler, any human. But Natsuki? He doesn't care. With a furious scream, he charges forward. His blade slices through the air in one massive swing, the impact shaking everything around them. The clash sends a shockwave that tears through the battlefield like a storm. Zephos lets out a distorted cry as his body begins to crack, then shatter completely. And just like that, the impossible happens. The demon god falls. Natsuki stands there, completely exhausted, surrounded by fading shadows. His body trembles, and for the first time, a tear rolls down his face. It's over. After everything, it's finally over. He takes a step forward, his body starting to glow with a soft, divine light. He looks up at the sky and quietly accepts it. He's going home. And just like that, everything changes. Natsuki suddenly wakes up in Mukajima City, completely disoriented. Bright lights, familiar streets, no monsters, no blood, no endless fighting. Just normal life. And before he can even process it, a guy named Mahara Yuto walks up with a girl, casually announcing they're dating now, almost like he's trying to show off. Meanwhile, Natsuki, he's on the verge of tears. He pulls his friend into a tight hug after years of separation. Yeah, definitely not the reaction Yuto expected. But before anyone can question it, Natsuki suddenly runs off. Like, full sprint. No explanation. No context. Just gone. He dashes through the streets, laughing, shouting, jumping into the air like he just won the lottery. Because to him, he kinda did. After 6 years trapped in a brutal fantasy world, he's finally back. He looks around, recognizing every corner of the city. Every building feels like a miracle, and as he runs, memories flood his mind. Fighting monsters, surviving impossible battles, defeating the Demon King and his generals. Only after all of that did he earn the right to return. And now, he's back in his younger body. Wait, hold on. Younger? Natsuki suddenly freezes. Something feels off. The timing. The date. He rushes home, realizing something important. His new gear was supposed to arrive today. Bursting through the door, he calls out to his mother, Haruko, who looks completely confused by his sudden emotional meltdown. He's crying, laughing, panicking. Yeah, from her perspective, this is very concerning. But when she mentions that packages have arrived, Natsuki immediately runs upstairs. Forget emotions. Priorities. He opens the box and finally puts on his new clothes and just stands there in silence. They're soft, comfortable, clean. After years of wearing rough monster hide gear, this feels like luxury. He collapses onto his bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the cool air of the room. No pain, no danger, no blood, just peace. For a moment, he even wonders if everything was just a dream. But then, he raises his hand and tries something. A small spark forms. Then suddenly, boom! A massive explosion of crimson flames erupts from his hand, completely destroying his room in an instant. The floor cracks, the air shakes, the entire house feels it. Yeah, so much for just a dream. Natsuki stares in pure shock as a beam of light shoots into the sky. His magic came back with him. Panic sets in immediately. He quickly tries to fix the damage while his mother rushes upstairs. Thinking fast, he pretends he was just exercising. Because obviously people destroy their rooms while lifting weights. Totally normal. Surprisingly, his mother just shrugs it off and calls him down for dinner. And just like that, the tension breaks. Curry is ready. Honestly, priorities again. But far away, inside a quiet traditional estate, something else is happening. A young girl suddenly feels it. That energy. Her calm expression shatters as a powerful presence resonates through her entire body. Someone has appeared. Someone dangerous. Inside the Minazuki estate, a woman in traditional robes senses the same thing. She turns to her daughters, asking if they felt that overwhelming power. They did. And not even demons have ever felt like this. So she gives one clear order. Do not engage. Just observe. Because whatever this is, and it's not normal, And the next day, things only get worse. A sharp-eyed girl from the Minazuki family watches Natsuki from a distance as school begins. Meanwhile, inside the classroom, everyone is busy playing a dragon battle game on their phones, which is honestly hilarious because the real monster is literally sitting right there. Natsuki, on the other hand, couldn't be happier. For him, this peaceful school life feels like heaven. No life or death battles, no constant fear, just classes, games, and normal conversations. He even starts thinking, maybe it's time to enjoy life. Maybe even get a girlfriend. Yeah, this guy just defeated a demon god, and now he's worried about romance, character development. But just as things start feeling normal, reality comes knocking. After lunch, two girls approach him, the Minazuki sisters. They introduce themselves calmly, then immediately drop the question. Was he the one responsible for last night's massive energy surge? And just like that, Natsuki's peaceful life starts falling apart again. At first, Natsuki tries to act normal, but yeah, that plan lasts about 5 seconds. A classmate suddenly interrupts, gossiping about relationships, asking if their childhood friend found a girlfriend. Natsuki brushes it off, clearly not interested. But before he can relax again, another girl approaches him. She asks to speak in private. Now, hold on. Rooftop, private talk. Natsuki's brain immediately jumps to one conclusion. Wait, is this a confession? His heart starts racing. He tries to calm himself down, telling himself not to get ahead of things. But still, what if? He follows her to the rooftop, completely unprepared for what's about to happen. Because instead of a confession, he gets a death sentence. The girl reveals that she initially thought he was a monster due to his overwhelming presence. But seeing him as a normal student only makes things more confusing. Natsuki, meanwhile, realizes something shocking too. She's strong. Very strong. When he awkwardly asks if they've met before, she simply smiles and calls him cruel for not remembering. Yeah, definitely not a normal conversation. She introduces herself as part of the Minazuki division and confirms she's actually his classmate. Natsuki tries to play it cool, blaming memory issues, almost slipping up about being in another world. But then she reaches for her sword, and everything changes. A terrifying killing intent fills the air. It's sharp, cold, deadly. Even Natsuki freezes for a moment, and that's saying something. Before he can react, she strikes. The blade flashes forward at insane speed, stopping just inches from his face. She notices something strange. His reaction speed is incredible, but he has zero detectable energy. That doesn't make sense. That shouldn't be possible. So she attacks again, this time aiming to kill. Natsuki barely dodges, the blade slicing into the ground behind him. His heart pounds as he demands to know what her problem is, but she calmly explains. Her family are spiritualists. For generations, they've protected the world from demons, spirits, and supernatural threats. And him, with that level of power, he's a threat. So she's going to eliminate him. Just like that. No hesitation. No doubt. And Natsuki's just standing there like, wait, seriously? He's not interested in her explanation. Not interested in fighting either. So he does the most logical thing. He tries to leave. Because yeah, she might be cute, but crazy is still crazy. But before he can escape, he's trapped. She activates a binding spell, instantly freezing him in place. A glowing barrier surrounds him as ghostly skeletal hands latch onto his body. Turns out she already placed a curse on him earlier. Yeah, she was planning this the whole time. She tells him to accept his fate, then delivers a powerful strike that sends him flying. She lands gracefully, sheathing her sword. Fight over, too easy, or at least that's what she thinks. Because when the dust clears, Natsuki is still standing, completely unharmed. And now, he starts laughing. Not normal laughter. The kind that makes you question your life choices. The girl's confidence shatters instantly, because she realizes something terrifying. This isn't a normal opponent. This isn't even a demon. This is something else entirely. Natsuki's power begins to rise, burning away the curse like it's nothing. The unbreakable seal disappears effortlessly, and now he's done pretending. His expression changes, his presence shifts, and he makes one thing very clear. He didn't survive a nightmare world just to be hunted again. Anyone who tries to ruin his peaceful life will be crushed. The girl trembles. For the first time, she's afraid. But instead of backing down, she snaps. Calling him demon scum, she throws away her current weapon and summons her clan's sacred blade, Tsuyuharai. Dark energy surrounds it as she prepares to fight seriously. Natsuki just smiles. Honestly, he looks excited. He challenges her to show him everything she's got. And just like that, the rooftop turns into a battlefield. She attacks with full force, her blade moving with precision and speed. But Natsuki, he dodges everything, effortlessly. He even critiques her technique mid-fight. Like, imagine trying your hardest and your opponent starts giving feedback. That's rough. Her frustration builds as she realizes she can't keep up. And then, Natsuki attacks. One single kick, that's all it takes. The sacred blade shatters instantly, like glass. The girl freezes, her weapon destroyed, her confidence completely gone. And Natsuki, he casually compares her power to the demon king and demon god he already defeated, and calls it nothing. Yeah, that one hurts. Then things escalate even further. Natsuki summons his true power, the demon sword, Blade of Chaos. Dark energy explodes outward, consuming the rooftop. Black flames twist through the air as the entire area begins to crack and collapse. The sheer pressure alone is overwhelming. The girl can't even move. She just watches in complete shock. Because now it's obvious, she didn't pick a fight with a human. She challenged a nightmare. But just as things reach their peak, Natsuki stops. The power disappears instantly, the flames vanish. And just like that, silence. He looks at her and calmly says he has no interest in killing someone that weak. He just wants a normal life. And then, he turns around and walks away, like nothing happened, leaving her there, shaking, breathless, completely broken. But just when it seems like everything is over, reality hits again. The damage. The blood. Natsuki suddenly panics. He rushes back, realizing he went too far. His serious, intimidating aura disappears instantly, replaced by a stressed-out teenager. He quickly uses healing magic, desperately trying to fix everything. Luckily, it works. Her wounds disappear. She stabilizes. And Natsuki? He immediately decides, yeah, it's time to leave. Fast. Because if she wakes up again, round 2 is not happening. He escapes the rooftop, muttering about how insane spiritualists are, still hoping, somehow, to go back to normal life. But far away, something else has already noticed him. A mysterious high-tech system detects the massive energy surge. An alert flashes. Coordinates locked. Target identified. Uh-oh. And as if that wasn't enough, high above the city, a winged woman watches everything from a skyscraper. She smiles, excited, because for her, this world just got interesting. And just like that, Natsuki's dream of a peaceful high school life? Yeah, that's officially over. Natsuki's already exhausting day takes a sudden, chaotic turn. On his way home, just when he starts thinking things might finally calm down, everything goes wrong again. Out of nowhere, a sharp voice cuts through the air, ordering him to stop. Before he can even react, figures emerge from the shadows, armed, serious, and very, very ready to act. In seconds, Natsuki finds himself completely surrounded. Police officers form a tight circle around him, guns raised, fingers on the trigger. The tension is so thick it almost feels suffocating. Every direction he looks, there's another weapon pointed straight at him. And honestly, what even is this situation? He just stands there, frozen, staring at the barrels aimed at his face, wondering if this is some kind of horrible joke. Because seriously, who goes from school life to a full-on police standoff in one day? The officers shout at him to get on the ground, their voices sharp and urgent. But Natsuki doesn't move. Not because he's resisting, but because he genuinely has no idea what's going on. The squad tightens formation. The threat becomes real. They're about to fire. And then a voice interrupts. Calm, confident, completely in control. A man steps forward with a slight smirk, casually shutting the entire situation down with just a few words. The officers immediately back off, lowering their weapons as if a switch has been flipped. Yeah, this guy clearly runs things. The man introduces himself as Hisashi Aoyama, the chief of Mukujima Police Station. His presence alone changes the atmosphere, replacing chaos with uneasy silence. He turns his attention to Natsuki, demanding answers. But just as the tension reaches its peak, everything flips. The chief suddenly recognizes him, and instead of anger, he bursts into loud laughter. Just like that, the life-threatening situation dissolves into something almost ridiculous. Natsuki is left standing there, completely confused as the same man who nearly had him shot is now casually chatting like nothing happened. At the station, the chief apologizes for the dramatic welcome, acting like it was no big deal. Meanwhile, Natsuki is still mentally stuck on the part where he almost got turned into Swiss cheese. As they talk, Natsuki recalls that Hisashi Aoyama is actually someone from his past, his mother's former classmate and a familiar face from the neighborhood. But even so, this side of him is completely new. Then a young woman enters the scene. She greets Natsuki warmly, introducing herself as Jinko Aoyama, the chief's daughter and also a police officer. She has a sharp gaze, the kind that looks like it can see right through people. Which, honestly, is not great for Natsuki right now. His attempts to act innocent are met with knowing looks. The chief quickly shifts the conversation towards something far more serious. Spiritualists. The word alone changes the tone. The chief explains that these individuals have existed for generations, operating under a secret government organization known as the Institute. Their job is simple and terrifying. Eliminate supernatural threats, and that includes humans who misuse power. A hidden division, far from public knowledge, constantly monitors dangerous energy disturbances. And recently, they detected something big, really big. The chief presents a photo, a massive beam of energy lighting up the city skyline. And the moment Natsuki sees it, his heart drops. Ginkgo calmly explains that their analysts tracked the source of that explosion directly to him. Yeah, there's no running from that. The chief leans forward, placing the photo in front of him, asking the question directly. Was he responsible? Natsuki realizes something important. Explaining this normally? Not happening. So instead, he decides to show them. He raises his hand, and in an instant, a massive enchanted blade materializes. Chaos Edge. The room falls silent. The sheer presence of the weapon is overwhelming. Dark energy hums around it, making it very clear this is not something from this world. Natsuki casually explains that it's a trophy, taken after defeating a demon lord. And just like that, everyone freezes. Because, yeah, that's not something you hear every day. He goes on to explain everything. Being summoned to another world, fighting monsters, becoming a hero, battling gods and demons, all of it. And somehow, it sounds insane and believable at the same time. The chief listens, then suddenly slams his desk in frustration. He refuses to accept it. Even with a literal magical weapon sitting in front of him, the story still feels too ridiculous. Meanwhile, Ginkgo? She's completely distracted. Her eyes sparkle as she stares at the blade, clearly fascinated. Before anyone can stop her, she grabs it, examining it like it's the coolest thing she's ever seen. Which, fair enough. She even gives it a ridiculous nickname, completely ignoring her father's increasingly desperate attempts to get her to put it down. Honestly, priorities are a little questionable here. The chief eventually sighs, clearly exhausted by the situation. He orders Natsuki to stop using his powers immediately, warning him that his abilities have already made him a target. Spiritualists will come for him, and next time, it won't be a misunderstanding. But Natsuki? He just shrugs it off. After everything he's been through, the idea of being hunted again doesn't scare him nearly as much as it should. All he wants now is a quiet life. Games, peace, no chaos. Simple. The chief watches him carefully, a faint smile forming on his face. Whether he fully believes the story or not, he chooses not to push further. As the conversation winds down, Natsuki asks one final question. Is the chief a spiritualist too? The chief simply laughs it off, brushing it aside like it's nothing. Just an ordinary man, he claims. And under the quiet glow of the moon outside the station, that answer feels just a little too convenient. At the Grand Minazuki residence, the atmosphere is anything but calm. Miyako kneels on the floor, her posture stiff, her head lowered. In front of her stands her mother, the head of the family, cold, composed, and clearly not pleased. The silence alone feels heavy. Then the reprimand begins. Her mother harshly scolds her for disobeying direct orders, her voice sharp and unforgiving. Miyako quickly apologizes, her tone desperate, almost trembling. She admits her mistake, trying to explain herself, but it changes nothing. The pressure in the room doesn't ease. If anything, it gets worse. Miyako begs for another chance, asking to make things right. But her mother shuts her down instantly, reminding her to understand her limits. Yeah, that one hits hard. And just like that, the decision is made. Her mother turns her attention elsewhere, to another girl standing quietly nearby. Mio. Without hesitation, she assigns her the mission to deal with Natsuki. No debate, no discussion, just a command. Mio steps forward, her expression calm but intense. One sharp eye locks forward with chilling focus as she accepts the mission without a single complaint. Her mother gives one final warning, proceed carefully. Because whatever Natsuki is, he's dangerous. And the next day, everything feels normal. Too normal. Natsuki strolls through a quiet park, yawning, completely relaxed. No tension, no urgency. Just a guy enjoying his day, while complaining about how unfair his recent arrest was. Honestly, after everything he's been through, that might be the least of his problems, but then something feels off. His instincts kick in instantly, a presence. Hidden, watching. He stops walking. His expression sharpens as he stares toward a patch of bushes, calling out for whoever's hiding to show themselves. And for a moment, nothing happens. Then suddenly, a weapon flies out at terrifying speed, slicing right past his head. Natsuki freezes, his eyes widen as he turns slowly, realizing just how close that was. Yeah, that was not a warning shot. He focuses on the object and recognizes it, a specialized talisman. So this isn't random, this is targeted. And before he can react further, something grabs him. A cold, withered presence wraps around his body from behind. Its arms tighten like iron chains, locking him in place. A ghostly figure presses close, whispering that his power is now sealed. No magic, no escape. The situation just escalated, fast. The spectral form begins to solidify, revealing a girl with a calm yet piercing gaze. She stands confidently holding a traditional bow, her presence quiet but deadly. She introduces herself as Minazuki Mio, Miyako's older sister, and just like that, everything makes sense. This isn't random. This is revenge. Mio declares that she's here to settle things on behalf of her sister, her voice steady and emotionless. Natsuki lets out a small sigh, realizing exactly how this is going to go. Another fight. Of course. Because apparently peace is just not an option for him anymore. He casually adjusts his stance, preparing to end things quickly, but then suddenly pauses. Something feels off. His expression shifts. He remembers the promise he made to avoid unnecessary conflict, to leave that violent past behind, to finally live a quiet, normal life. For a brief moment, he hesitates, but that moment doesn't last long. Mio charges forward without warning, calling his name as she attacks. So much for talking things out. Natsuki quickly raises his hand, trying to stop her, insisting that fighting is pointless. He tries to reason with her, arguing that this will only lead to more hatred. But before he can finish, impact. A powerful kick slams into him, sending him stumbling back. Mio doesn't hold back. She declares that without his magic, he's nothing. And honestly, that confidence is about to be tested. She launches into a relentless barrage of martial arts strikes, fast, precise, and clearly well-trained. But something's wrong. None of it works. Not a single attack leaves a mark. Natsuki stands there, taking every hit, still trying to talk her down like this is some kind of peaceful discussion, which, at this point, is almost funny. Meanwhile, Mio's frustration starts building. She prepares a hidden technique, energy gathering as she gets ready to break through his defense. And that's when Natsuki snaps, not in rage, just pure annoyance. With a single motion, he releases a massive shockwave. The ground explodes outward as raw power tears through the park. Trees shake. Dirt lifts into the air, and everything around them is blasted back. Yeah, and that escalated quickly. The force is overwhelming. The very ground cracks beneath them, leaving destruction in every direction. The spectral entity that had been restraining him lets out a distorted scream as it's completely torn apart. And just like that, silence returns. Natsuki stands in the middle of it all, completely calm. But then, reality hits him. He broke his promise. Again. As the dust settles, Mio emerges from the wreckage. Her clothes are torn, her body shaken, but she's still standing. Barely. She takes a few unsteady steps forward, then finally stops. And to Natsuki's surprise, she surrenders, just like that. No more attacks, no more hostility. The fight is over. Natsuki immediately rushes toward her. Panicking as he apologizes over and over again, he notices the damage, her condition, the destruction around them. Yeah, this definitely didn't go as planned. Mio, however, remains strangely calm. Even in that state, her expression doesn't break. She looks at him quietly, then makes a request. And whatever she's about to say, it's definitely not what he's expecting. Mio stands quietly, her posture steady despite the damage around her. Then, to Natsuki's complete surprise, she apologizes. Her voice is calm, controlled, almost polite, as if she hadn't just tried to take him down moments ago. She explains that the ambush wasn't personal. It was a test, a way to measure his true strength. Natsuki just stares at her. Like, seriously? A test? That felt more like attempted murder than a test. But, alright. Mio, meanwhile, tries to maintain her composure, subtly adjusting her torn outfit as she prepares to make a proper request. The situation has somehow shifted from a battlefield to something oddly formal. Seeing her condition, Natsuki lets out a small sigh and raises his hand. A soft glow begins to form. Magic flows outward, wrapping around Mio in a gentle light. The torn fabric begins to mend itself, stitching back together as if time is reversing. Within seconds, her clothes are restored. Well, mostly. Natsuki casually admits the details might not be exactly the same, which honestly raises more questions than it answers. But still, problem solved. With that done, he straightens up and makes his stance clear. He wants no trouble. No fights, no connections, especially not with spiritualists. He declares the whole situation finished and turns to leave, clearly done with all of this. But of course, it's never that simple. Mio suddenly steps forward, stopping him in his tracks. From her sleeve, she pulls out a thick envelope and holds it out toward him. She calls it a token of apology and compensation for everything that's happened. Natsuki glances at it, pauses, then looks again. And just like that, his entire attitude changes. Yeah, money talks. His serious expression disappears almost instantly as he grabs the envelope and agrees to hear her out. Honestly, after everything he's been through, this might be the fastest character shift yet. Mio watches this transformation with quiet amusement before thanking him softly. Now that she has his full attention, she gets straight to the point. She invites him to visit the Minazuki household, this time not as an enemy, but as a guest. She explains that her family comes from a long line of elite spiritualists tasked with dealing with monsters and dangerous individuals. But after witnessing his power firsthand, they've come to a conclusion. Fighting him? Pointless. Instead, they want peace, negotiation, because whatever Natsuki is, he's far beyond anything they can handle. Mio reveals that the head of the family, her mother, is deeply interested in him, not as a target, but as something unknown, something worth understanding. She asks for his answer. Natsuki hesitates. For a moment, he clearly considers refusing, but in the end, he agrees, reluctantly. Mio nods, promising to return once everything is arranged. But before he can leave, she asks one last question. How much power did he actually use during their fight? Natsuki answers casually. Not even half. More like 10 to 20%. And just like that, the weight of those words settles in. Mio acknowledges it silently, because, yeah, that's not normal. That's terrifying. As Natsuki turns to leave, she calls out one final warning. Even his overwhelming strength might not be enough against certain individuals. He stops for a brief second, glancing back at her with a thoughtful expression, then continues walking. And just like that, she disappears into the shadows. Back at the Minazuki residence, the atmosphere returns to that same cold, controlled tension. Mio kneels before her mother, reporting everything that happened. She confirms that Natsuki has agreed to visit, completing her mission successfully. Her mother listens in silence, then offers a quiet, almost chilling praise. Not warmth, not pride, just acknowledgement. Mio continues, describing Natsuki as someone who appears completely ordinary, a middle school student with nothing special at first glance. But beneath that, power beyond comprehension. Her mother's eyes narrow slightly, because that contradiction doesn't make sense. An ordinary human, with that level of strength? No. There's something more, something hidden. And as the conversation ends, one thing becomes clear. Natsuki is no longer just a problem to eliminate. He's a mystery, and now, he's officially under their watch. Mio stands quietly, her face calm and unreadable, but deep inside, a darker thought takes shape. As she watches her mother, one idea crosses her mind. What if Natsuki actually destroys them all? It is a dangerous thought, yet she does not push it away. Meanwhile, far from that tense household, life continues like normal. The school bell rings, students pour out, and laughter fills the air. Right in the middle of it, Natsuki walks out of class, stretching as his mind drifts. He thinks about the Minazuki clan, their power, their intentions. Then suddenly, he stops. He realizes something important. He was so focused on that compensation earlier that he completely forgot what Mio actually wanted from him. For a second, he considers going back, but then he shrugs it off. Food sounds like a better plan. After everything he has been through, snacks feel more reliable than people. So he heads toward the exit, ready to ignore it all. But then someone calls his name. He turns and sees a student walking toward him, calm and polite. The guy apologizes for stopping him and asks to talk. Natsuki looks confused, wondering what this is about. And then the guy drops it. He brings up a girl, Noah. He admits he knew Natsuki liked her, but things changed. They talked, got closer, and now they are together. Just like that. No warning, no build-up. Just gone. Trying to explain himself, the guy brings up their past. Their friendship since kindergarten. Small memories, even something as simple as sharing crayons. Then his tone shifts and he admits he has been taking things from Natsuki for a long time. Small things before, but this time, it is different. He apologizes, saying he knows this should hurt, that Natsuki should be angry. For a moment, Natsuki just stands there, silent. Then he answers, calmly, like it does not matter. He says it is fine, that he barely even remembers it. And just like that, the whole moment falls apart. The guy freezes, completely shocked. No anger? No reaction? He starts panicking, accusing Natsuki of pretending to be strong, saying there is no way he is actually okay. But Natsuki does not react. Not because he is hiding it, but because he really does not feel anything. That realization hits differently. His mind drifts back to his other life. The fights, the betrayals, the constant danger. Compared to that, this feels small, almost nothing. He wonders if this would have hurt him before. Maybe it would have. But now, it barely registers. The guy keeps talking, trying to make sense of it, eventually thanking him in an awkward way and even calling him the best friend ever. Yeah, that sounds a little ironic. Then he grabs Natsuki's hand, says goodbye, and walks away. Natsuki stays there, staring at his empty hand. Something feels off. As his friend disappears, Natsuki suddenly senses something. Energy. Mana. His eyes narrow as he focuses on it, realizing it is coming from the guy who just left. And that is when it clicks. This world is not just hiding spiritualists. There is something deeper. And somehow, even his normal childhood friend is part of it. Yeah, a peaceful life is definitely not happening. Natsuki walks through the crowded streets, lost in thought, and as he moves forward, that strange energy he sensed earlier refuses to leave his mind. The presence coming from Yuto felt real, almost too real, and because of that, every step he takes now feels heavier, like the world around him is hiding something deeper. As he glances around at the normal city life with people chatting, cars passing, and everything looking peaceful on the surface, he cannot help but feel uneasy. After everything he has experienced, this version of normal just feels slightly off, like something is not adding up. Just as he is about to brush it off, a cheerful voice suddenly calls out to him, snapping him out of his thoughts. It calls him Big Brother. Natsuki immediately freezes, and after a brief pause, he slowly turns his head, only to see a girl running toward him with a bright, innocent smile. She introduces herself as Ayakawa-an and, without hesitation, claims that she is his little sister. Yeah, that does not land well. Natsuki simply stares at her with a completely blank expression because, from his perspective, this entire situation screams suspicious. Even as she happily asks for a moment of his time, acting like nothing about this is strange, he already decides this is not worth dealing with. So naturally he turns away and starts walking, hoping to end it there. However, she does not give up that easily. Instead, she immediately chases after him, loudly calling out his name and drawing attention from everyone around them. Just like that, what should have been a quick dismissal turns into a public scene. Then, shifting her tone completely, she suddenly apologizes for her past behavior, speaking softly with what appears to be genuine sincerity, and even claims that she still cares about him. But instead of being moved, Natsuki's instincts immediately flare up. To him, this is nothing but danger signals. He studies her smile for a second and instantly categorizes the entire act as a scam. Clean, simple, and painfully obvious. After everything he has survived, this kind of emotional manipulation feels almost laughably transparent, and there is no way he is falling for it. So, without hesitation, he shuts it down completely. Cold and direct, he tells her to try her tricks on someone else before walking away without a second thought. In his mind, ignoring scams is the best possible defense, and with that logic, the problem should already be solved. Or at least that is what he believes, because the very next day, she is, waiting for him outside the school like nothing ever happened. Of course she is. She greets him with a cheerful wave, casually complaining about how long she has been waiting, as if this is completely normal behavior. Natsuki just stands there, already feeling drained before the day has even started. Then, without missing a beat, she teases his messy hair and steps closer like she belongs there, offering to fix it without any hesitation. At this point, even he has to admit, the persistence is impressive. Before he can react properly, she pulls out a homemade lunch filled with his favorite food, fried dumplings, and proudly declares that she made it just for him. Natsuki looks down at his plain bread, then back at her, and the difference hits him immediately. Yeah, that contrast hurts a little. She even scolds him for his poor eating habits, acting exactly like a caring family member would, and for a brief moment, it almost feels real. Almost convincing enough to make him hesitate, but only for a moment. He quickly shuts that thought down, reminding himself that this is just a high-level scam, nothing more. And apparently this so-called scammer is fully committed because she does not stop there. She actually shows up inside his classroom, smiling like she owns the place and casually invites him to walk home together. At this point, Natsuki is not even annoyed anymore. He is just confused. How did she even get in? This is beyond persistence. This is dedication on another level. Still, he narrows his eyes, convinced she must be after something valuable. Most likely his money, specifically the savings he has been protecting. And with that thought, he reinforces his decision. There is no way he is falling for this. Later that night, he lies in bed trying to relax, but his mind refuses to settle. Eventually, sleep begins to take over, and just when things start to quiet down, he suddenly wakes up with his heart racing. Because she is there, standing right above him, staring down at him with a strange, unsettling smile. And yeah, that is absolutely terrifying. She leans closer and whispers softly, her tone calm but deeply unsettling, her presence far too close for comfort. Natsuki immediately panics, and just like that, his peaceful night is completely destroyed. As if things were not already bad enough, he then notices something even more ridiculous. There is a woman passed out on his sofa, surrounded by empty drinks. At this point, he does not even question it anymore. He just lets out a tired sigh because, honestly, trying to make sense of his life right now feels completely pointless. The next day, he finally decides to confront Anne directly in the park, demanding clear answers, starting with the most important one. How did she get into his house? That is not something he can ignore. Surprisingly, she answers calmly, explaining that she has a spare key and insisting that she is not a criminal. According to her, they used to live together as family. Naturally, Natsuki does not believe a single word of it and immediately prepares to call the police. However, before he can act, she shows him something that stops him cold. A photo, an old childhood picture. And in that instant, everything begins to shift. Memories slowly resurface, connecting pieces he had completely forgotten. Their parents, the remarriage, living together under the same roof, it all comes back. It is real. She was telling the truth. As the realization settles in, Natsuki begins to remember and Anne gently smiles, reaffirming that she always saw him as her big brother. For a brief moment, the tension fades, replaced by something almost peaceful. But that moment does not last long, because soon after her expression changes, growing darker as she brings up a single name, Yuto. And just like that, everything becomes serious again. She reveals something deeply disturbing, explaining that her behavior back then was not normal. She describes feeling obsessed, almost controlled, like something was influencing her thoughts, and because of that, she started seeing Natsuki as an obstacle. That unnatural obsession ended up destroying their family and led to their separation. And now she places all the blame on Yuto. Natsuki is left stunned because if what she is saying is true, then this situation is far more serious than he initially thought. And almost as if on cue, Yuto suddenly appears. He steps out from the darkness like he has been listening the entire time, and honestly, the timing feels way too perfect to be a coincidence. He casually greets them, acting like this is just a random encounter, but the tension in the air tells a completely different story. Without hesitation, Natsuki moves in front of An, shielding her while warning Yuto to stay back. At this point, he is not taking any chances, and immediately confronts Yuto, accusing him of manipulating her in the past and blaming him for everything that happened. In response, Yuto completely snaps. He grabs Natsuki by the collar, his face filled with anger, and demands to know what lies were fed into her head. Caught off guard, Natsuki struggles to respond, but before things escalate further, Anne quickly pulls Yuto away, shouting at him to stop. She makes it clear that if he hurts Natsuki, she will never forgive him. Things spiral quickly after that. Yuto mutters something about jealousy, trying to twist the situation, while Natsuki just stands there, mentally exhausted, wondering how his life even reached this point. But then, everything suddenly starts to make sense. The strange behavior, the unnatural influence. Yuto's power is finally revealed. Charm, a terrifying ability that forces people to become completely loyal to him, not by choice, but through total control. It is essentially brainwashing on a massive scale, the kind of power that could easily take over entire nations. At that moment, An's story becomes believable. Natsuki realizes that this might actually be the truth, but that only leads to another question. Why did it suddenly stop working? Did something break it? Could it be something as simple as Yuto focusing on someone else? However, before he can think any further, Yuto suddenly attacks. He starts throwing punches one after another, aggressive and relentless, while Anne desperately tries to block him and protect Natsuki. And in that instant, Natsuki reacts. Instinctively. He delivers one powerful kick. It lands clean. Yuto is sent crashing to the ground, and for a brief moment, everything goes silent. Natsuki freezes, realizing what he just did. He struck his former friend, but at the same time, something feels different now. Yuto groans in pain, clutching his stomach, completely overwhelmed, and Natsuki does not hesitate to respond. His expression turns cold as he makes it clear that things have changed. They are no longer friends, and if Yuto pushes him again, he will not hold back next time. Anne watches everything unfold in shock, realizing that the balance of power between them has completely shifted. Without another word, Natsuki turns and walks away, leaving Yuto on the ground and Anne standing behind. As he moves forward, he lets out a tired sigh because at this point, his life feels completely out of control. Between psychics, lost family ties, and mind control abilities, the idea of peace feels more distant than ever. And yet, while he walks away from the chaos on the ground, something else watches from far above. Hidden beyond the sky, an alien presence silently observes the Earth from within a UFO, waiting patiently. Because whatever comes next is not going to be normal. A new chapter begins in the lively shopping district of Mukujima Island, where bright lights stretch across the streets and crowds move nonstop in every direction. Right in the middle of all that energy, Natsuki stands completely still, holding a cheeseburger like it is the most valuable thing in existence. And honestly, to him, it might as well be. He takes a bite, and in that instant, everything changes. His body freezes, his eyes widen, and pure joy washes over him like a shockwave. The taste, the texture, the flavor, it all feels unreal. After surviving years in another world filled with terrible food and constant struggle, something this simple feels like luxury beyond imagination. For a brief second, he even looks emotional, like he cannot believe this is real. Yeah, this is what true happiness looks like. With a satisfied smile, he continues walking through the crowded streets, quietly promising himself that he will enjoy every second of this peaceful day. For once, life feels normal, calm, almost perfect, but just as he begins to relax, something strange starts to happen. The air feels off, the noise fades away, and before he can even process it, the entire crowd disappears. Natsuki slows to a stop as the once busy street becomes completely empty. The silence feels unnatural, heavy, like the world itself has been paused. He turns his head cautiously, sensing something is wrong, and that is when he notices it. A cloaked figure standing right behind him, completely still. Yeah, that is definitely not normal. The figure speaks in a calm, unfamiliar tone, addressing him not as a human but as a life form of Earth. Natsuki stares in confusion, blinking once then twice, trying to process what he is hearing. But before he can react, the figure reveals its true form. Its body shifts into something clearly not human, surrounded by a strange cosmic energy that makes it impossible to ignore. An alien from another planet. And just like that, Natsuki completely loses it. He immediately turns and runs without a second thought. No hesitation, no questions, just pure panic. Apparently, magic and other worlds were fine. But aliens? Yeah, that is where he draws the line. He sprints forward as fast as he can, trying to escape the situation, but suddenly slams straight into something invisible. The impact sends him stumbling back as he reaches forward, touching the air in disbelief. A shimmering barrier reveals itself, completely surrounding the area and trapping him inside. The alien calmly explains that escape is impossible. Natsuki clenches his fists, clearly frustrated, and decides that if running will not work, then he will just break his way out. Energy begins to rise around him as his power surges the ground beneath, him trembling slightly from the pressure. For the first time, the alien looks genuinely surprised, clearly not expecting such a strong reaction. However, before things can escalate further, the alien quickly raises its hands, trying to calm him down and explain that it did not come here to fight. Instead, it has a request. Natsuki pauses, still on guard, as the alien creates a glowing hologram in front of him. A girl appears within the light. Her name is Nancy. The alien explains that she is his childhood friend and fiancée, and that they came to Earth for a peaceful trip before their wedding. At first it sounds like a simple and happy story, but the mood quickly shifts as the alien reveals the truth. Nancy was captured by humans, and not just ordinary people, but someone with strange powers. The alien barely managed to escape and is now desperate. He explains that he sensed Natsuki's overwhelming strength and believes he is the only one capable of saving her. So he asks for help, practically begging him to step in. Natsuki listens quietly, thinking it over, and as he processes everything, something about the situation feels oddly familiar. It reminds him of the sci-fi movies he used to love, those classic alien encounters filled with dramatic moments. And then, as if to confirm it, the alien raises a glowing finger. Yeah, that reference hits perfectly. Natsuki exhales and smirks slightly, realizing he cannot turn this down. So, without overthinking it any further, he accepts. He points back at the alien, confidently declaring that they will rescue Nancy together. The alien looks relieved and grateful, and the two seal their partnership with a glowing touch that feels straight out of a movie scene. After that, Natsuki properly introduces himself, while the alien reveals his real name, which turns out to be ridiculously long and impossible to remember. Natsuki does not even bother trying. Instead, he simply decides to call him Jack. Much easier. With that settled, their mission begins. Night falls over the city, and far above something silently watches from the sky, though Natsuki remains completely unaware. Right now, his focus is elsewhere because he is flying through the air on a bicycle. Yes, a bicycle. And sitting comfortably in the front basket is Jack, looking around in amazement as they soar through the night sky. Natsuki casually explains that flying is the best way to avoid attention, while Jack seems completely fine with riding in a basket like this is perfectly normal behavior. Yeah, sure it is. As they pass beneath the moon, Jack suddenly reacts, sensing a weak but clear signal. It leads them directly to Nancy's location, about 7 kilometers away at an old facility, specifically on the 3rd floor. Without wasting any time, Natsuki speeds up and heads straight toward the target. Moments later, he reaches the building and does not even attempt a quiet entry. Instead, he crashes straight through the wall on his bicycle, leading with the front wheel and slamming directly into someone inside. Yeah, subtlety was never part of the plan. And just like that, the rescue mission officially begins. The moment Natsuki crashes into the room, the entire facility is thrown into chaos. Debris scatters everywhere. walls crack from the impact, and the so-called research center instantly turns into a battlefield. However, instead of focusing on the enemies or the situation, Natsuki's attention immediately goes somewhere else. The bicycle, his mother's bicycle, it is completely damaged. He stares at it in shock, mumbling about repairs as if that is the most important issue right now. Meanwhile, everyone else in the room can only watch in confusion, clearly not expecting this kind of reaction in the middle of a rescue mission. But then his expression changes. He finally notices Nancy. She is restrained, terrified, and clearly in distress. And just like that, everything shifts. The frustration inside him explodes as he turns toward the researchers and delivers a powerful strike, sending one of them flying straight into the wall. The room falls silent as he glares at them, calling out their actions for what they truly are: kidnapping, cruelty, and completely unforgivable behavior. He makes it clear that their little experiment ends here, because as someone who loves stories about space and alien life, he refuses to let something like this happen. And with that, he moves. Fast. So fast that no one can react. One by one, the researchers are taken down with precise and overwhelming strikes. Every movement is clean, every attack controlled, and within moments, all of them are unconscious on the ground. Just like that, the fight is over. Natsuki exhales, finally relaxing a bit as Jack rushes to Nancy's side, freeing her from her restraints. She breaks down in tears as the two reunite, and while the moment is emotional, Natsuki quickly reminds them that they need to leave immediately. Something about this situation still feels wrong. And right on cue, a new figure appears. A man steps out from the smoke, calm and confident, wearing sunglasses and carrying himself like he is completely in control. He casually warns Natsuki that taking Nancy will not be so easy because she is considered extremely important to his group. Natsuki remains unfazed, but Jack immediately recognizes him as the one responsible for the kidnapping. The atmosphere changes instantly as the man laughs, completely relaxed, claiming it is already too late to stop his plans. Then his power activates. Strange, snake-like energy forms around Natsuki, wrapping tightly around his body and locking him in place. He cannot move at all. The man explains that his ability allows him to paralyze anyone who makes eye contact with him, and he confidently mocks Natsuki, believing the fight is already over. But Natsuki stays calm, because compared to everything he has faced before, this is nothing. Energy begins to build around him, and in a single burst he shatters the restraints completely. The energy snakes disappear instantly, and the man's expression changes from confidence to shock. Now he understands. This opponent is on a completely different level. Natsuki steps forward and delivers a devastating punch, sending the man crashing through the wall with overwhelming force. He casually remarks that it is a good thing the sunglasses were already off, adding just a bit of mockery to the moment. Then, without hesitation, he tells Jack to take Nancy and leave, making it clear that he will handle everything else on his own. He grabs the man by the collar and demands compensation for everything: the kidnapping, the damage caused, and most importantly, his mother's bicycle. The man panics and tries to explain himself, throwing out a bizarre theory about aliens being descendants of gods from deep space. Natsuki listens, completely unimpressed, clearly not buying any of it. However, before anything else can happen, something suddenly interrupts them. A massive burst of energy explodes into the area, filling the space with blinding light and a powerful shockwave that cracks the ground beneath their feet. Even Natsuki braces himself as the energy begins to settle, revealing a new presence. From above, a figure slowly descends. A girl with wings spreads them wide as white feathers drift through the air around her. She floats effortlessly, looking down at everything with a bored, almost disappointed expression, as if none of this is worth her time. She casually declares that everyone here is far too weak to entertain her. Natsuki looks up at her, clearly annoyed, especially because her dramatic entrance just destroyed his brand new clothes. At this point, that alone is enough to irritate him. He demands to know what she is doing, but she simply smiles, clearly amused by his reaction. She decides to stay, suggesting that she might play with him for a while. Natsuki steps forward without hesitation, meeting her gaze head-on despite his torn clothes and the chaos around him. After everything he has already been through, one more powerful opponent does not even faze him anymore. And just like that, the situation shifts once again, as a new and far more dangerous battle is about to begin. The winged girl hovers above the shattered building with a smug smile, clearly amused that Natsuki is still standing after taking her earlier attack head-on. Instead of finishing him immediately, she studies him like a curious predator, deciding he might actually be worth her time. Meanwhile, the rogue psychic struggles in the rubble, barely recovering from the chaos, while Natsuki stares up in pure confusion, trying to figure out why this random flying menace just dropped in and started blasting everything like it's a boss fight. He demands an explanation, and this time she actually gives one. With a terrifying grin, she introduces herself as Lucifer, an angel from the divine realm. Not just any angel, but one who came down to Earth with a very specific goal. According to her, she exists to wipe out demonkind, and somehow, for some reason, she has already decided that Natsuki belongs on that list. Yeah, that's definitely a misunderstanding. Natsuki immediately tries to deny it, insisting he is not a demon, but Lucifer does not care. In her mind, the decision is already made. She vanishes in an instant and reappears right in front of him, moving so fast it almost feels like teleportation. Even Natsuki barely reacts in time as her attack comes crashing toward him with overwhelming force. At the last second, he blocks. The impact shakes the entire structure, and for a brief moment, the two remain locked in place. Lucifer raises an eyebrow, slightly impressed that he managed to defend himself at all. But that small hint of respect disappears quickly as the fight escalates. Natsuki counters with a sharp kick, forcing her back as white feathers scatter through the air. For the first time, Lucifer actually stumbles, clearly not expecting that level of strength. However, instead of getting serious right away, she sneers and immediately retaliates with even more power, striking him hard enough to send him crashing through multiple floors of the building. He hits the ground below with a heavy impact, but she does not stop there. She follows up with a massive energy blast that detonates against him, shaking the entire structure and lighting up the area with a violent explosion. Watching the destruction unfold, Lucifer lets out a satisfied laugh, already convinced the fight is over. She even throws up a casual victory sign, thinking she just erased him. But then, something feels off. From the center of the crater, a pillar of energy suddenly erupts upward, cutting straight through the smoke. Lucifer's expression freezes as she realizes what that means. He is still alive. Moments later, Natsuki steps out of the debris, brushing himself off like he just tripped instead of taking a full-power divine blast. He casually remarks that it barely scratched him, and honestly, that might be the most disrespectful thing he could have said in that moment. Lucifer just stares, because now she understands. This is not a normal opponent. Natsuki tilts his head and questions whether she is even human, which immediately triggers her pride. She takes offense instantly, laughing as she declares she is far above humans. But at the same time, she realizes something else. He is not human either. And just like that, she decides to stop holding back. Natsuki's expression shifts as well. The relaxed attitude fades, replaced by something far more serious. He grins slightly, almost excited, as if he has been waiting for a real fight this whole time. Lucifer loses patience and charges again, screaming in rage as she tries to crush him with overwhelming force. However, this time, things go very differently. Natsuki moves with precision, effortlessly dodging her attacks before landing a clean elbow strike that sends her sliding across the ground. She gasps, completely caught off guard. The balance of the fight has changed. Before she can recover, Natsuki follows up with another brutal hit, driving his fist into her midsection and smashing her straight into the wall behind her. The impact is so strong that the structure cracks and collapses around her, leaving her pinned in the rubble. For the first time, Lucifer looks genuinely shaken. She cannot believe what just happened. Natsuki steps forward and looks down at her, casually mocking her strength, comparing it to something he considers average at best. He even goes as far as saying she is 50,000 years too early to challenge him, and yeah, that line hits her pride harder than the punch. She snaps. Completely. In response, Natsuki prepares to finish the fight, summoning a massive dark blade as energy swirls violently around him. The sheer presence of the attack is enough to make it clear that this is not something she can casually brush off. However, before he can strike, something unexpected happens. The Special Disaster Division arrives at the scene. Ginko Aoyama leads the team, staring at the destroyed building with visible panic. She immediately realizes that whatever is happening inside is far beyond her level. Despite being sent to handle the situation, she internally complains about being dragged into something this insane, even muttering that she is just a regular officer, not someone meant to fight monsters like this. And, honestly, she is not wrong. Right as the situation reaches its peak, Natsuki casually walks out of the building, carrying the unconscious Lucifer over his shoulder like she weighs nothing. The entire squad freezes, completely stunned by the sight. The same terrifying presence they came to investigate is now being treated like luggage. And then, it somehow gets even weirder. A gray alien suddenly appears in front of them and politely asks if they are the police. Ginko immediately panics because now there is an actual alien involved, but the visitor quickly tries to calm everyone down, explaining that he means no harm. He introduces himself with an absurdly long name that no one can realistically remember, before explaining that he asked Natsuki for help to stop the illegal research happening inside the building. Ginko just stands there, trying to process all of this at once. But before anyone can even catch up, another explosion erupts from the building. Natsuki turns back with a quiet realization, muttering that he might have gone a bit too far. He tries to justify it in his head, thinking that since Lucifer has wings and is clearly not human, she can probably handle it, although even he knows that explanation sounds a little questionable. From the rubble, Lucifer slowly rises again. Her body is damaged, her wings torn, but her pride is still intact. And that is the real problem. She glares at Natsuki with pure hatred, refusing to accept defeat and declares that she will kill him no matter what. Even now, after everything, she still believes she can win. Natsuki just looks at her, completely unimpressed. He calmly states that no matter how many times they fight, the result will not change. That only makes her angrier. Driven by rage, Lucifer begins to release even more power, the ground cracking beneath her as her energy surges to a dangerous level. This time, she manifests a glowing divine weapon, a massive blade crackling with energy, and declares that she will finally kill him with full force. Natsuki watches carefully and immediately realizes the problem. That level of power is not just dangerous for him, it will wipe out everything around them. He tries to warn her, pointing out that innocent people will get caught in the blast, but she is far past the point of caring. Completely consumed by rage, she charges forward, screaming and unleashing everything she has. Natsuki clicks his tongue in annoyance, because now he has no choice. He decides to end it, for real this time. As her attack closes in, he activates his own power and calls out a spell, Black Raging Thunder. Dark energy erupts around him, forming a massive vortex that completely overwhelms her incoming attack. And then he casually reveals something terrifying, that this is only intermediate magic. Yeah, let that sink in. Lucifer's strongest attack is completely swallowed, her power crushed as the dark energy engulfs her entirely. She is thrown back, her wings shattered, her body unable to withstand the overwhelming force. When the dust clears, Natsuki stands over her, completely unharmed, looking more bored than anything else. He admits that her strength was impressive, but ultimately nowhere near enough. Lucifer lies there barely conscious, staring up at him in disbelief. Her pride is completely broken. In her final moments of awareness, she realizes the truth. The person she looked down on as a lowly demon is something far beyond her understanding. The remaining energy explodes outward, tearing through the building and sending debris flying everywhere. Outside, Ginkgo and the alien watch in horror as the entire structure begins to collapse. She immediately starts shouting for evacuation, finally abandoning all composure as she runs for safety. Within the ruins, everything falls silent. The battle is over, the destruction is absolute, and standing in the middle of it all, Natsuki simply adjusts his clothes like this was just another inconvenience in his day. Meanwhile, buried in the rubble, Lucifer can barely move, her voice trembling as she tries to understand what she just faced. Because at this point, there is only one question left in her mind. What exactly is Natsuki?
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.